Let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, you might think that your ability to have an effective relationship or to be effective in a relationship is at a 3. Well, if in the course of our class it goes up to a 4, that would be great success. And we just continue working to raise it, and then we don't wind up feeling pessimistic about the chance that a relationship could work for us. And one of the best ways to know that you're on the right track is to tell yourself over and over again, the perfect partner does not exist. Again, there only will be approximations of perfect partners, just as you yourself are only an approximation of a perfect partner. And wise people have become satisfied with shreds and patches. As long as they can fit them together in a quilt that has a pleasing design. Not an abusive design, not a messed up design, but a pleasing one that does keep you warm through those cold nights. So I want a relationship as the same as I am committed to giving up the hope for perfection, and I'm committed to doing the work and moving from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 and letting myself be satisfied with that and telling other people that I'm satisfied with that and that they would have to be satisfied with me along those same lines. Okay, so that's just by way of preparation, because let's go on to, everybody has this information, I take it? Okay. Let's just go on to this subject just briefly of predators. Predators are people who are out there looking for prey, hence the word predator. It's someone who has an agenda of taking advantage of you. And this could be a man looking for a woman or a woman looking for a man. The term gold digger is also used when it's a female. A predator is a canny person who can see weakness and knows how to capitalize on it. It's almost as if you have an instinct for predation. And when a predator sees a weak link in your personality or sees a disability, he automatically finds it attractive and moves toward it. It's as if, for instance, you were sitting in a restaurant and your eye happened to catch the eye of someone across the room, but you didn't think much of her or him. But then when she gets up and she starts to walk out of the restaurant, you notice that she has a slight limp. And you suddenly feel an attraction. And I have to meet that person. And there really are people like this who will feel an attraction towards someone who has a weakness. It's an inborn instinct. I saw this program on cheetahs, and that's where I got most of my information. It showed this mother cheetah observing this herd of gazelles, and the narrator said, she's looking to see which one has a slight limp or a little bit slow or maybe a little sickness. And once she sets her eye on him or her, she will not take it off him or her. Even if a completely healthy one walks right by her, she'll pay no attention. Her eye is on that one. This is how nature has set it up to weed out the weaker ones. And she will run until she catches him. And she's unswerving in her hunting. So we have to be careful about showing our wounds We want to be open and we want to be vulnerable, but we have to watch out because there are some people who, when they see our wounds, will want to take advantage of us. Something like the vampire licking his lips at the sight of blood, that idea. And the vampire, by the way, is the archetype of the predator in all of us. So I just want to throw that out and also say that he usually has the charm to be able to sweep you off your feet. And he usually will want more than a one-night stand because he wants to get as much out of this as he can, like the vampire. He usually knows just how to use you without completely draining you, like Dracula. He won't completely drain you. He wants to keep you alive for as long as possible. And controls you while at the same time exciting you. And mostly talks you out of your boundaries. So that whatever boundaries you had before, he will show you they're not necessary. Everybody follow? Okay, so that's, any questions on that subject? Because I want to go on to talking about the ego and narcissism, and then we'll see a little more about it. So let's return to asking, I brought this up with respect to open and secret agenda. I'm trying to say that there are some people who have as their agenda to take advantage of women or to take advantage of men. There are some people out there who hate women but don't realize that they hate them and will do all kinds of things to hurt and abuse you and never even be fully conscious of it. So you want to keep your eye open. There was a question? Yeah.
I'm wondering, do they go after mental?
Her question is, would they also go after mental weakness in the sense that you could easily give your will over to them? Yes.
Or like low self-esteem or something?
Low self-esteem especially. Yeah. No, I didn't mean physical. I was just using that as the limping as an example. They're looking for emotional weakness and self-esteem deficits. Right. Her question is, would your intuition warn you? No, because he knows how to shut down your intuition. You remember in the Dracula movies how the doctor and the friends will say, now you keep this garlic here by the bed and the crucifix and and of course the minute they leave, she dumps them out and opens the window because she's already been hooked. And even though they're telling her he's dangerous, she can't hear that because she's lost her sense she's lost her powers of assessment. So the formerly wise adult within has been hypnotized, put asleep, and the impulsive child who gets the immediate gratification, that's the one who comes out. Now, secret agenda that we've been talking about also applies to relationships as they begin or as they're already in progress. So I just want to say a little bit about that to wind up what we talked about last time. As we mentioned, we sometimes have a hidden agenda, perhaps hidden even from ourselves, and then we have an open agenda. And our hidden agenda may be control me, punish me. This is what we're saying to the predator, for instance. Control me, punish me, make me feel bad, make me keep believing that men are unfaithful. That may be our hidden agenda going into a relationship or while in one. Then we will blame and complain. And how could we face the truth of what we're really up to? That's the question. How could we admit that we want to be happy? We can't make that admission. So that's why we keep this hidden. When we were hurt and loved by the same person in childhood, such as one of our parents, we might look for a man or woman partner to fulfill our emotional needs and at the same time to disappoint or abuse us. That could be our hidden agenda. So my open agenda is to find someone who will fulfill my emotional needs, and my hidden agenda is to find someone who will, at the same time or shortly thereafter, abuse me and betray me. And so my feeling bad about his inadequacy in this is not based on his not coming through, but the other half of what I wanted all along and feel bad about in myself. We feel bad about a secret agenda that is out to get us, but we could be our own worst enemy. Because we could look for someone who would abuse us, or we could train someone into abusing us. That's how strong this agenda might be. Where does this agenda come from? From the unhealed wounds of childhood. As Edna St. Vincent Millay says in the first lines of one of her poems, even in the moment of our earliest kiss, sap the dry seed of most unwelcome this. And this I knew, but not the day or hour. So right from the very first kiss she knew, aha, this is the one who will hurt me and abuse me and disappoint me. And it was just sitting there waiting to bloom. Well, I just didn't know when it would happen. So you see what we're up against with these agendas? So I would want to ask myself, well, how can I find out what my hidden agenda is? It's what you've mostly done in relationships. So instead of lining up the former partners and saying, isn't it a terrible thing that they were all like this, you might want to say, could it be that I'm lining people up to play that part? Now, one way to free oneself of a hidden agenda is to be very open and to make a self-disclosure, make a full disclosure of what you're about before you get into anything serious, so that the other person can make an informed consent and so that you can show exactly who you are if you want to be this honest. So, I wrote up just such a disclosure, which I would like to propose for last time I presented this I said 6th date, but now I've moved it to 5th. So by the 5th time of getting together, you would say something like this. Our relationship seems to be getting serious now, and I'm happy about that. In the interest of keeping everything clear between us, I would like to share some things about myself. I'll begin with the qualities that may be less appealing, and then go on to others that may be more encouraging. Okay. Now, notice as I go through this that I've written this in such a way that you could start revealing some of the hidden agenda, that this person has done enough work on himself that he knows this much about himself. I want so much to love and be loved, but I'll have to admit that my fears make me fight it tooth and nail once it gets close to happening. I can only be loved by someone flexible enough to allow for just such inadequacy. In fact, I can't be depended upon for perfection in any area. If you can only love someone who meets your specifications as a perfect mate, you won't want me. If you have an airtight definition of love, I won't match it. I can only be loved by someone who loves me for my frailty, the extent of which will keep surprising both of us. I can only be loved by someone who loves me with my arrogant ego, with my shadow, and with all the scar tissue of my childhood. I can only be loved by someone who, like me, has nothing left to lose because she has already let go of the belief that anyone can be perfect for anyone else. It will take guts and perseverance to be with me. You will need arms that can hold a frightened child without loss of respect for the adult underneath. You will need eyes that can glimpse the terror that hides behind a mask of rage and threat. You will need a heart that can bear pain and loss without failing to trust the love that is trying to find you. I've fallen in love before, usually with an image of an ideal, of a projection, of a fantasy, of a partner I hoped I knew. But this time, I'd like to rise in love with a real you. This is how we will not miss, you and I, love's many-splendored thing. I don't have a history of getting it right. In fact, I don't think I've gotten it right in a relationship for more than an hour in my whole life. Most likely, I will not come through for you as often as you would like. I'll let you down sometimes. I may resist closeness. I may not always listen or even try to understand. I may not always be there for you when you need me. I may not accept you as you are. I may seduce you with my looks, my charms, my words, or sex, and then may not deliver. I may lie or hide my true feelings, and I may run from yours. I may be seeing one or both of my parents in you, and may try to get you to give me what they gave me or could not give me. I look self-sufficient, but that is a facade. Underneath, I'm a needy, scared, bereft, and lonely little boy. I may try to get you to do things for me or to give me things. Those are my ways of getting you to prove that you love me. I am often combative, especially when I notice that intimacy is beginning to happen. I am jealous and even paranoid at times. It may be intolerable to me that you have friends of the opposite sex. I may try to control you. You will have to be on your toes to catch me in my many slippery ways of manipulating you. And if you do confront me, I may even be so scared that I will lash out at you for it. I may not be able to handle your freedom or your choices or even your standing up to me. If you require someone who won't ever make you cry, I'm the wrong one for you because I could hurt you. You can only love me as I am, not as you need me to be. I'll disappoint you again and again as long as you are expecting me to meet your criteria for happiness. You can only love me unconditionally and with no guarantees that it will pay off to do so. And on the other hand, I can also offer some valuable things to you. I know who I am, and I'm not ashamed to admit what I know. At the same time, I know it's in me to lie or hide to protect myself. I'm working on myself. I'm looking for ways to learn how to love more authentically. I do this by trial and error, by asking and doing, by falling and rising, by busting myself and letting myself be busted, by being and becoming. I want to be able to love you the way you want to be loved, and I welcome your telling me how. I'm always scanning my behavior to see exactly how I am controlling and demanding and manipulative. Often I don't notice, and I welcome your saying, ouch. When I see how I offend, I make amends. I may hurt you, but it will never be with malice, only by oversight or because my scared ego is strangling my wish to be kind. I'm working on opening and becoming safer with vulnerability, on letting the truth come out, no matter how threatened I feel by it. This is a work in progress, nowhere near completion. Perhaps you can even hear me opening right now in this honest and embarrassing presentation of myself to you. I'm not trying to look good. I'm looking for goodness and choosing candidness as the path to it. Go by my performance, not by my promises. Review my history by calling my former spouses, partners, lovers, and friends. Then look for signs of change. Decide with your eyes wide open. Make an informed consent. I won't disappoint you if you know me as a fallible human with love to give, and not much practice in giving it consistently, but with a commitment to keep practicing. I can only be loved with all my faults and amends and failures to amend, with all my inadequacies and attempts to compensate them, with all my failures and attempts to compensate them. Accept me that way, and love can happen between us. P.S. Don't be fooled by my poetic eloquence. Sometimes I can be pretty rude. All right. So, that's the kind of thing you would write up and say. Better write it up first so you be sure to get everything in there. Everybody see how it works? It's easy, really. Just took me a few minutes to write that. Anyway, can you do it? What do you think? Would it be embarrassing? Do you think you could expose yourself like that? Also, when you do something like this, it kind of has some fun in it. There's a little humor in it, makes it lighter. And of course, later on, when the partner says, I didn't realize that you were so resisting of closeness, I said, if you take a look here on page 32B, I may resist closeness. That's about as good as I could get. All right, so let's move on to our other part of this subject, which is now with all this knowledge, how can we tell whether this person will be a good partner? And I have made a little list here. How to tell whether the person that you're considering has the makings of a good partner. One is he is working on himself. A partner who says therapy is for the birds, all that human potential movement is meaningless. There's no such thing as having to work on yourself. That's not the makings of a good partner. Not nowadays, with everyone so clear that we all have to work on ourselves. Secondly, he doesn't need you, but he does love you. He doesn't need you, not in a needy way. He's not needy, but he is loving. He has needs, but he's not needy. He or she keeps agreements. Says he's going to be there at a certain time, he's there. It's not necessary that this person be totally free of problems, because we all have problems, but this person has the ability to handle obstacles with you, excuse me, and is committed not to make unilateral decisions within the relationship about subjects that involve both of you. This seems simple at first, but really look at it. Could you make a commitment in your relationship never to make a decision unilaterally on your own, always to include the other person, in other words, bilateral, when it affects both of you? This would mean no such thing as an affair, because that's unilaterally, secretly deciding to do something that affects both of you. And your commitment is to be bilateral, so you would be discussing everything like that. So you would wonder, could this person make that kind of a commitment? Everybody follow? It's like the powers in a democracy. The president, he doesn't have unilateral power to make a law. He can propose a law, the Congress can pass the law, and then he can veto or not veto the law, then they can vote again and get a higher proportion and pass it, and then the Supreme Court can step in and judge this law. So there are many protective devices because it's not unilateral. So we are protected in the long run. So could you be with someone who is willing to protect you this way? If you want to make a decision on your own about something for yourself, you want to buy a new type of toothpaste, no problem. But when it involves both of us, then we have to talk about it. Next, it has to be someone that you're mostly happy with without the churning feelings that come with fear and desire, the adrenaline rush, and so forth. If that's happening, then you're getting information about a hookup with the dramatic, unfinished business of your childhood that you need to look at in your own work. It has to be, He leadeth me beside the still waters, He restoreth, He reviveth my soul. It has to be like that if it's going to be real. This is someone who can handle your strength. It's an adult-to-adult arrangement, not parent to child or child to parent. He likes the fact that you're strong. Next, you feel loved in that special, highly individualized way that we mentioned before. That singular, unique way that's special to you. You feel it cellularly because, of course, it's a body memory that goes back to how you were originally loved. And this person knows how to bring that out. It's not that you know that he loves you, it's that you feel loved. That has to be in there. It can't be that, I know he loves me. That's not enough. Or he said he loved me. That's not enough. It's I feel it in every cell of my body. We know what that's like. We know the people that bring that out in us. This person has to bring that out. He has good friends. Somebody who has no friends at all, isolated, that's not the makings of a good partner. Because that person's not looking for 25%. That person's looking for 100%, which you don't have to give. Because you only have to give 25%, since you're a healthy person. He's sexually interested in you and excited by you and your body, no matter what it looks like. Now, a question that may be useful when you notice a diminution in the sexual interest, which you might notice even before marriage, is what percentage of all my sexual energy, all my sexual interest, feeling, so forth, is directed toward my partner? If it's less than 50%, then there's a problem to be addressed. So taking all your sexual energy, most of it should be directed toward this person that you are in love with. Doesn't that stand to reason? Am I right on that? Does that make sense? So if this person has a lot of sexual interest in all these other women he sees walking by or knows even, and also a lot of interest in whatever other forms of sex he's interested in, and you're just like some percentage of it in there, that's not the makings of a good partner. I don't even know why I have to say this, but next you want to know whether this person has a signature style. I'll explain this, of relationship, or a serial style. Signature style means he loves you as you are. Completely unique, like your signature. Serial style is you're the latest woman to fill the slot in his life marked woman. Or vice versa, man, woman to man. Everybody follow? Have you been chosen because he needed a woman, and you happen to be the one that strikes his fancy? Or were you chosen whether he needed a woman or not, but just because you are so fascinating and so important? See how different that is? One way to tell later on, when it's over, for instance, does your absence, when the relationship is over and you're gone, does your absence leave a void to be filled by grieving and respecting your loss? Or does your absence leave a slot to be filled quickly with someone else? That will tell you that's a serial person. In other words, does he want some body or does he want you? And another part of this style of neediness that you want to look for, does he keep the former partner as kind of a backup person for, intimate conversations and so forth, and I go from 1 to 2, but then I keep 1 as a backup, then I go on to 3 and I keep 1 and 2 as a backup, and he has kind of a line of so-called supportive former partners. There's something suspect about that. Next and last, are there things in common? Without a partner who shares your excitement about the things that really turn you on, you will feel lonely. It does not happen when you're alone. See, when you're alone and you have interests, you have friends that you share these interests with, you pursue them all together, and you don't feel lonely. But when you're with someone with whom you have nothing in common, and you don't have quite as much access to all those other people who will share your interests, it can get very lonely. So you would have to say something like this. I'm very turned on by you, and I like so much about you, but as far as having the makings of a truly intimate relationship between two adults, in which it's really important to have things in common, you don't match my specifications. And even though you meet so many of my needs, I have to give you up since you don't provide some essential ones. So you want to use the even though technique, even in your thoughts. Even though you have so many wonderful things to offer, you lack in an area that is so important to me that I'm afraid I have to say no. Would you have that kind of courage, or are you so needy to have someone that you'll take him as long as just one of these criteria is met? And of course, if you can't do this, if you can't tell the difference between a good partner and one who's not so good, and you're caught in the habit of making the same mistakes with one partner after another, you may need a relationship sponsor. This is a good friend who has to pass on all your prospective partners. Even come with you on 1 or 2 dates. Because you can't tell whether it's somebody that it won't work with. So she or he will advise you. Make sense? This is how seriously we would take such a subject as relationship. This is how honest we would be about our inadequacies in choosing someone that's suitable. I've made so many mistakes. I haven't chosen people that were suitable. I thought I had it perfect the last time, and it was just one big mess. So I really need your help from now on. I'm going to have all my partners meet you, and you give me feedback. And I'll have to go by what you say. Everybody follow? Okay. So you might want to, in keeping with this even though mentality, if you could bring this into your consciousness, it would be so helpful. Just the little technique of even though you are this, this, and this, you are lacking in this, and therefore I have to say no. So answer yes or no out loud to these simple questions. This will help you. Would you eat strawberries you knew to be deliciously sweet if you were seriously allergic to them? Would you buy a car you thought was really impressive looking if you knew it would require continuous, costly, and major repairs? Would you purchase a shirt or blouse you knew was the perfect style and color for you if you knew it was 2 sizes too small? Would you, somebody said maybe. Would you eat mushrooms that looked delicious if you knew they might be poisonous? Okay. Would you attempt to read a book you knew to be interesting if it was written in Polish? Would you buy a racehorse you could see was a beautiful stallion if he lacked one leg and was sterile? Would you stay in a relationship with someone you loved if you were unhappy? Ominous silence, a few little no's trying to arise very tentatively. Okay, would you blame the strawberries for your allergic reaction, the car for costing you, the mushrooms for poisoning you, the book for confusing you, the horse for disappointing you, your partner for your unhappiness? Okay, do you see the point? Even though they look delicious, since they might be poisonous, I have to say no. Even though it looks like a good book, I have to, etc. And it's exactly the same. It's no different. Why would there be a different? Why was there hesitation on the question, would you stay in a relationship with someone you loved if you were unhappy? Not for more than 30 days, during which time you're trying to set up to work on things. And if the work starts within the 30 days, then you stay. But if the work doesn't start and you're not moving at least from the 3 to the 4 as the time goes by, then it's time to bail. So look closely at the questions that I just asked. In every one, there's a picture and a reality. That's the point of it all. The picture of the beautiful strawberry doesn't match, or the picture of the beautiful mushroom, easier to draw, the picture of the beautiful mushroom doesn't match the reality of its possibly being poisonous. The picture looks good, but the reality is not good. So when there's a great advantage, but one serious defect, you can't go with it. So am I seduced by the advantages and disregarding or denying or lying to myself about the central disadvantage? Do I act in accord with the full truth, which is letting go of the beauty of the way it looks and making a decision in favor of the adult side of things, which says you can't take that chance? And when I look at the beautiful mushroom, I wish that it were edible. And I can wish all I want, but I still won't eat it. Could I use this same sensible protocol in looking at a person? You look good, and I wish you were good, but the chance is just too big. And so I have to hold off. And how much grief and decision for self-nurturance is in the even though when I say, do I act in accord with the full truth, even though I wished it were not so? It kind of reminds me of that part of the Rubaiyat in which the poet says, "Ah, love, if you and I could but conspire to change this sorry scheme of things entire, would we not shatter it to bits and mold it nearer to the heart's desire? See, we would like to do that. We would like to shatter this unpleasant reality and make it into what we really want. But it's just wishful thinking, isn't it? Adults will know the difference between wishful thinking and an intelligent plan. Her question is, well, isn't it true that nobody's perfect, as we originally pointed out? But what I'm bringing up now is when one of the essential features is missing. Such as we have good sex, but we have nothing in common. Or I know he loves me, but I don't feel as if he loves me. See, those are big enough to bring in the even though. So even though I'm only looking for an approximation, you're lacking in something so major that it just can't quite happen. I saw this comical sketch once on Saturday Night Live where they were making a movie of, it was about auditioning for the part of Tarzan. And Dudley Moore shows up with one leg. And the director is trying to be polite. He says, now usually we've seen Tarzan with two legs, and you have one. And Dudley Moore is saying, yes, but I know I could do the job anyway. And he says, well, I'll tell you what, if only one-legged people audition, then I will definitely consider you. But for the moment, I'm going to have to keep looking for someone with two legs. So it's like that. It's like something is so essential is missing that no matter how enthusiastic you are about it, it can't convince me. Everybody follow? Okay, there was another question?
It was the same question.
Okay. Yes? Yeah, he's saying it's sometimes not quite as clear. Well, it isn't clear. This mushroom might be poisonous. It isn't. We're not sure whether it is or not. And we probably won't be sure when we meet people whether they do meet these criteria. So my proposal is to stay long enough to find all this out. To stay long enough so that you're sure before making a serious commitment. So the list of what has to be in place for this to be a good partner, that should be the list that you're satisfied with before you make your serious commitment. So we go on dates, we spend time, we do things and so forth, but I'm not really going to be in on this until I have this kind of information clear for myself. And it may take a while because, as you say, it's not open and shut like I'm allergic to strawberries, and that's a strawberry. It's not like that. It's very complex, and we're easily fooled, and we're always dealing with the two voices, the voices that we've been talking about all along. There's the little kid voice inside, the child voice, that says, I want that, that's what'll satisfy me. And then there's the adult voice that says, even though that's what you want, I have to say no because I'm just not convinced that this is what will really satisfy you. So there's always that other adult voice that needs to supervise the unruly child who would make the decision based on the look of something. Always these two voices are in us about everything. And I gave the example, which I thought was such a good one. When you're in Vons, the hand that grabs the chocolate chip cookies, that's the child's hand. And the hand that grabs the Brussels sprouts, that's the adult hand. Now, if the adult hand were supervising, when the hand went to the chocolate chip cookies, the adult would say, no, even though those look good and even though they taste good, those aren't really good for you because of the hydrogenated oils and the sugars and so forth. So I'll have to say no to that. But when we do get over to the fruit section, you can pick out any of those unusual fruits that they have and I'm sure you'll find them very satisfying. Not as satisfying as these cookies, but since I'm looking out for your best good, I guess I'm going to be offering you things that won't be quite as tasty, but ultimately will be for the best. See, that's how you'd have to talk to yourself.